flathead, pull that off, flathead, pull that fuel line off. Carburetor, spark, man, it's just everything's coming apart. Everything. All right, we're back. I've been back since the EMPI Engine Battle. Thank you again for everybody involved with that. That was such an awesome experience, despite the damage. But now that we're here, we need to tear this thing apart and see what all is bad, what all we're going to replace, and build this thing back to what it should be. Although I'm going to change a couple things. I think I mentioned in the last video. I'm going to go with a 94mm piston and cylinder just to get a better fit, hopefully at the head and at the case. I didn't like the way this thick wall 92 set fit, and I think that's why that cylinder, the actual cylinder itself, well, this cylinder, pretty sure that's why this got damaged, because it actually had that little bit of play in the head. So I think that's actually why this cracked. So I'm gonna get it mounted on the stand, and we're gonna tear this thing apart and go from there. Along those lines, sorry for the lack of videos. Obviously I was on vacation. I do have a lot of stuff in the can still left over from Nathan's Baja bug. Obviously we kind of jumped the gun on that series, so to speak, whereas I released the video at the show because I thought that was the more prominent video as opposed to all the work up to that point. I think I finished by mounting on the 3x3 trailing arms, but obviously we still have setting up the torsion bars and assembling all the CDs and axles, shortening the shift rod, mounting up that rear Baja bumper. I have a lot of that stuff in the can. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see that. A lot of good information for people out there that don't necessarily know how some of that Baja bug stuff is actually done. Let me know, and I'll be happy to put together some of those videos with some of the key points, and if nothing else, just good old father and son entertainment. Although I think I burnt my son out a lot during that series with that hard push. He's not used to that grind like I am. He's still stoked, and he keeps on bugging me about working on the car at this point. We'll get to it. Of course it is, it's 100 degrees outside currently, which means my garage at home with no air conditioning is about 100 plus degrees. Not the best work environment. I don't mind it so much as long as I've got a fan, but the cameras don't like the heat. So we'll see what we can do. I'm doing some work on that through the summer. I got to pull the body off, replace the floor pans. I've got to build some rear shock towers and kind of a rear subframe for those. But that's besides the point. We're here for an engine. Let's get to this engine. All right, moment of truth. How much damage do we have? No. A little bit. Just a wee bit of damage. Yeah, that should really be attached to that with a whole bunch of blades that are no longer attached. We do offer balanced and welded fans. I just didn't have any in stock when I built this engine. Next time. That's what's left. You can see what happens inside a fan shroud when a fan explodes. Nothing good. I mean, we have a torn hole in the side there. All sorts of dents and carnage, and virtually all, heck, the accelerator cable tube, every single piece of deflection tin on the inside is no longer where it should be. That's what happens. So we've got more fins. I really like these. I just wish the nuts would stay on better. Pull this guy off again, and we are going to Loctite the living heck out of that guy. Yeah, this guy next time is going to get coated in Loctite. I guess we can turn this engine over to number 1 and pull out the distributor, although it doesn't really matter, but it's just good practice. And I guess I've got gloves, so I'll use them. I guess I know why I was down on power after the fan exploded. I didn't catch this till just now. When the fan exploded, it also took out a spark plug, so I was only running on 3 cylinders for the subsequent engine runs. Had I caught this, I probably could have ran the engine a little bit more. Not to really any sort of performance, because this head was stacked full of fins, that head was stacked full of fins. It would have overheated real quick and caused more damage, but heck, there we go. Now I know why it just sounded really, really bad after this had popped. Cylinder shrouds, no worse for the wear, so that's good. I need to drain the oil on this thing. Definitely used oil, but no surprises. Just the smallest amount of debris on the plug, for the magnetic drain plug. Nothing large. Just what you expect to see from wearing in rings and everything else. Let's pull off this exhaust. All right, just about down to the long block. See if we can pull off this crank pulley. Let's pull off those guys. With that, here we are, down to a long block again. Let's see what we got. Got a hold of it again, huh? Yep. It's the one drawback to these valve covers, is that they seem to sit too high because of where these shafts are in relationship to the head. So the other side's actually not bad, but this side, you can see that I actually had to bend these studs to move it down, because if they were in the straight up and down-ish position, you can see how high up on that head they sit, way off this side, and a big lip on that side. So that might be something to keep an eye out for on your engine build. That rod actually might still be good. I don't see any wear on that. That wrist pin still slides through just fine. I bet you that connecting rod is actually good to go. This thing wasn't run long, and it still spun up to 7,800 RPM. So I bet you that thing is ready to rock the way it is. I'm still going to pull this engine all the way down and all the way apart and inspect everything, clean everything, and then we will rebuild it again. But now, my other concern, or my other question, is whether or not 94 cylinders will fit this case. Now, this shim is cut for 94s. I'll be right back. I think I have a spare 94 cylinder. This is a 94 or a 93.93 forged. However, these came back because they got a little shipping damage. I don't want to check this. One of the 3 cylinders wasn't damaged. These are cool because they have the hypoeutitic coating on them, and they are forged moly piston. Ha ha ha! Yep. Snug as a bug in a rug. That's our new cylinder. Well, this is our new size. More importantly, at the cylinder head, which has more debris, it's about the same. It's that same fit. So these have a little bit looser cut, very similar to what we already had. And here, this was after Anthony had gone through and polished out, and you can see that surface should be smooth. He actually cut these things down to as much as he could to eliminate some of the damage that this cylinder took. Ooh, and that's that indicates that plug was running a little bit lean, which to be expected. We didn't actually have time to jet this thing, but that's all the damage that that took. But unfortunately, with 1, 2, 3 missing fins, this isn't really the best head in the world anymore. I don't know. We'll see what we're gonna do with them. I don't know. Man, and honestly, now that being the case, I might revisit that. That's still a good fit there. It fits the same with the head. Again, street car. Maybe we'll just go with the thicker walls. I don't know. I'm gonna leave this one up to the boss. We'll let him make the decision. Again, running a little bit lean on that last run. It was running hot. It wanted more fuel. What else can I say? Oh, that wrist pin still moves real nice. That's what I like. I'm gonna bet that these connecting rods, as stout as they are 100% okay. But time will tell. It's $1.09. I was born in '77, so $1.09's right at my era of adolescence. This is another spot where I'm going to make a change. EMPI has been back ordered forever on the JC PowerFlow oil pump systems, and one of my good friends just absolutely loves them. I've never used one. I want to give it a try, see how they work. It's supposedly one of those things that it doesn't make horsepower, but it frees up horsepower. So essentially what they do is the PowerFlow oil system has a check valve and a return line back to a universal case oil filler. And once that check valve sees 120 psi, it opens up and lets anything else run back here so that the oil pump isn't pushing all that pressure against the stock pressure relief valve, and again, freeing up that horsepower that would be backlogged on the oil pump there. So again, it doesn't give horsepower, but it allows horsepower. There we go. Oh man, we're out of oil. Hang tight, I'll be back in a moment. I want to get some clips and a mat to place all the pieces and parts and everything else on. Not necessarily concerned about the engine case halves, but I want to make certain that all of my bearings that come out, especially the main bearings, because that's a $200 set of main bearings, provided they're still in good shape. This engine doesn't even have 2 hours of runtime on it. So if those bearings are in good shape, at least the main bearings, because they are for the flanged crank, we're going to reuse those. I'll definitely replace the cam bearings. I'm going to talk to some friends on these connecting rods. Probably going to need this new set of rod bearings, at least down here, because I want to pull apart everything and clean them off. But these rods should be in good shape. These are very stout rods. That piston is not very stout. I have a feeling that these rods are 100% good to go. It's not my money, it's not my engine, but just the same, a $400+ set of rods, $400 is $400, even if it's not mine. If we can reuse them, we'll reuse them. Like I said, same thing on the main bearings. $200 for a set of main bearings that have no time on them. If they're in good shape, I'm going to reuse them. Would I recommend that normally for, you know, an engine that's had a year's worth of abuse or otherwise? Absolutely not. Drag racing cases? Absolutely not. But this engine has no runtime and hardly any time under a load. Under a load, it's been all totaled on the dyno, maybe 5 minutes under a load on these bearings. So we'll reuse them. And there's that distributor drive gear rearing its ugly stupidness. There we go. Yeah. Those rods are good to go. Those bearings are good to go. But I'm going to go get some lifter clips. Be back in a flash. All right, I've got some lifter clips. These just install inside the lifter bores and hold them in place when I pull apart the case. I've got to pull apart the sump. I wish these were really copper. They might actually seal better. I guess the manufacturer's like, well, maybe if we make them copper color, that'll work better. They'll work just fine as long as they're the right color. Marker and write that down. And this will be number 1, number 2, intake, exhaust, exhaust. All right, memory serves, this case has that little pry spot right there. Although I probably want to bust these engine and flywheel bolts loose first. Let's do that real quick. All right, now let's pull this case half apart. Note this case does have a spot there and right here as a pry point. Otherwise you would never, ever pry right there. Need another screwdriver. That's one lifter. That's number 1 exhaust. Apparently I didn't get that one in place. Pop the bearing out. Let's see, put you back there. There's actually a lot of assembly loops still in there. Yeah. All of our lobes still look good. Everything there looks good. Angle FK8. That'll be good to go for the next build. That spinning around on our distributor drive gear didn't do it any favors. Rear main seal. We got some chunks out of our distributor drive gear. This is what happens when you spin your engine when your distributor drive gear is not all the way seated. So we'll have to pop that off and replace him. Not a big deal. Let's get our lifters out. Number 3 exhaust. 3 intake. 4 intake. 4 exhaust. Okay. Let's get our flywheel over here. Set our crank on it. And I wasn't lying about doing 4 distributor drive gear shims. Drive gear actually looks to be in really good shape. Obviously we knocked off some pieces of brass. Go in and take a look at our bearings here. Let's go in for a closer look and feel on these bearings and show you what I'm seeing, and we'll take it from there. So here's what we've got. Rear main, got just the slightest edge of silver across there, and we're not down to any copper by any means, so that little shiny edge worries me a little bit. I don't know anything about pulling apart an engine this fresh. Same thing, we've got a little silver through there, the slightest hint of silver in the middle of that, hardly anywhere through here, and all told, this, I mean, there's no rough spots. I can't feel anything. My finger doesn't catch on anything. Everything looks good. Over here, this is my big concern. All the extra silvering on the edge, on the center, and on the edge on this. I don't know if that's normal or not. A little bit on the inside edge silver there, and then same thing there, but again, I can't catch anything on my fingernail. My fingernail actually leaves a mark. On the crank, spinning this thing on the stand a little bit. We've chunked up our distributor drive gear, so we're definitely going to replace that. All those look fine. You can see where this was polished off and kissed off, balanced by DPR. Everything here looks great. This was number 1. Again, I doubt this rod was damaged from that little bit of run. But I'm going to talk to a buddy of mine and see what he says about it. And if he says I should replace it, I'll replace it. Same thing on these bearings. I'm going to send him the pictures of the bearings and see what he says and go from there. If you are going to be reusing your bearings, make sure they go into the same spot they came out of, and the easiest way to do that is just to keep them organized. We've got number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, exhaust, intake, exhaust. Same thing over here, so we know all of our lifters are going to go back in the same spot in the case that they came out of when that time comes. And then obviously same thing on our bearings. If my buddy tells me that they are good to go, we'll reuse them. Like I said, the wrist pins and all these bushings look beautiful, no deformation. All the wrist pins slide smoothly in those. Those should be good. Pull everything apart further, do a deep clean on the engine case halves, pull out the little pistons. Don't know if I can get those out, but I'm gonna try. Yeah, my special piston, oil pump piston tool is at home, but if I'm lucky, I'm lucky. And that one might not go. Aha. Got it. Bye. And let's see what happens if we drop it. Will you decide to fall? Not yet. No, still no. Well, that's going to hang out there for a while. Pretty much all of it done with the teardown on the engine. On that note, I'm Sam with JBugs.com. Thanks for watching. And remember, life's full of good people. If you can't find one, be one.